Hi, friends. Welcome to Brave New Frontier, the podcast where we talk about the rise of the self-made creator, the remote revolution, and the new tools redefining how we work and how they have opened doors that never existed before. Our podcast is for the ones who refuse to be ignored, the ones who get knocked down and get back up again, smarter and stronger. And today we are very lucky to have the lovely and amazing Autumn Krauss, the author of A Dress for the Wicked, the author of This Beauty, Before the Devil Knows You're Here, and the upcoming novel Grave Flowers, which is coming out later on this year. I am very, very excited. Madalena's goal is to what? To marry the prince? No, to kill the prince. You're going to want to read it, I promise you. Thank you for being here. Autumn, how are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. And frankly, I am excited to ask this very first question. You are a mother of three. You run your own business doing those lovely Gothic frames, those custom frames, and you are a writer. Holy moly, how do you do it? How do you wind up getting all of that creative work, all of that into your life? Tell me about some of the tools you use or the techniques you use.
So literally people would DM me asking this question of, how do you work? How do you homeschool your kids? Because, I do care for them full time. And how are you also, like a full-time author? And basically the answer to a certain degree is I don't really know. But when I do reflect on it, I think I am able to do it because I do categorize everything very, very clearly. So, for example, I don't try to write when my kids are awake. I think that would be, when I have tried, it's an exercise of futility, because the creative process, it's all about getting in the flow. And kids, they are their own flow, and you have to kind of go with their flow. So I don't overlap my writing with when my kids are awake. I only write at night. So that does mean that I am basically not sleeping that much, but I'll, around like 11 or so when like the house is all quiet and I've had like a little nap to like gear up, then I basically clock in and I write, and I'll write, sometimes till like 2 or 3 a.m. And then the frame business was like a blessing because before then I was writing for interior design magazines. And my thought was, oh, this is starting to get really, really hard. I was getting more book deals. My book career was starting to take off. And so I was starting to have like a lot of a harder time managing, having like a writing job on top of a creative writing job. And then obviously, I couldn't do those while the kids were awake. So I was like trying to think like, okay, like what can I do? And then almost like coincidentally, I like styled a gallery wall for my own home, and people loved it. I posted it in my stories and I got a lot of inquiries about it. And I realized, oh my gosh, like I could literally turn this into a business. I never thought about starting a business of my own, but I was like, oh, there's like a need for this. Like people want this. They love this. And also with the frames, that's something I can do when my kids are awake. It's a very like hands-on job. I'm refinishing frames, installing art, cleaning glass. When it's not glass for your own home, it's fun to clean. When it's vintage glass, it's fun. When it's like when you're cleaning your mirrors, it's not fun. But when you're doing it for like old, beautiful things, it's really fun. And basically, you're bringing these old frames back to life. And I could do that when my kids are awake because like I refinish it in our little apartment patio and they're like running around outside in the greater apartment area where I could see them. And so I think I just really figured out a system where everything has its place as to where I could fit it in. And then it all somehow comes together. Also, as I said, I don't sleep very much.
Sounds like it. And I got to say, that is so impressive because I have made very, I suppose, half-hearted attempts at doing what you do, which is like, okay, here's a good time to do this. And then I just don't. So I just want to say how like impressive that is. And I also had a quick question about you finding your audience specifically in reference to the frames, because you said that you noticed, oh, there are people who want this. And I'm like, that's awesome. I never would have even thought of that. I mean, I want them, but I never would have thought that other people would have wanted them. So how did you find your people? How did you find your audience?
Sure. It is the weirdest business model. Like, because I realized I don't even have a name for the business. I don't even have a website. People ask me all the time, like, what's the website where I can like look at these frames? It all operates in my Instagram stories, which is like the weirdest thing ever. And that, I started getting orders. And so I'd post pictures of the orders that I was fulfilling. And then that just brings in more orders. And ever since I opened up like, I think at this point it's almost like a year and a half ago. Like I've never had a stall out of orders. So that's a great blessing. But I think a lot of readers follow me because my Instagram is dedicated to my book. Like on my feed, like I'll only post about my book. I don't post about frames there. Like if anything, I just use them in the background, because they're so pretty. How could you not? They're like a good prop. So but I think like, readers tend to be, I think they tend to be more creative. I think they tend to kind of almost be, visual people. So I think like the old vintage frames, like they in of themselves are a story. So I think readers were just drawn to that. And that was like basically like an overlap audience. Like my customers are basically, people who love to read, or, people interested, and who also happen to be like interested in interior design and just like making their home special with like one or two, beautiful frames or a full gallery wall type thing. But yeah, it's like the most randomest thing ever. But what a joy! I mean, I'm so grateful I get to do that as a source of income to help our little family try to get us out of this apartment.
And that is so cool to think about. And now you're causing me to think about, okay, well, what would people maybe who like my books, what is something else that would go with that? Because, I have in my head just this narrow, I write this book and I was only thinking about books, but you were like, no, it's like an entire personality kind of a thing. The people who want these kind of stories, these stories can be told in other ways. And so you're inspiring me as we speak. And it's also really encouraging to hear about how your business model doesn't work exactly the same as a whole lot of other business models. So it's kind of freeing because then people can be like, well, let me just mess around. Let me see what works. Let me see what comes together, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That
And that's so true.
that is
I mean, I'm as surprised as anybody that it ended up coming together and it ended up working.
well, sometimes those are the best surprises. The like, man,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna work, but I feel passionate about it. And then bing, God's like, yes, it works. And we're like, thank you.
Yeah, I'm the daughter of a blue collar family. Like my dad's a woodworker, my brother's a woodworker, and so I think, and a lot of times in woodworking, they're taking side projects, to supplement. And I think like I kind of had that really hardworking spirit, and also that kind of like openness of like you just fit things in when you can, and you try to be the very best that you can be, and you try to make really beautiful things and hope that they resonate with people. So I think I inherited that as well. And then also I got lucky because they're woodworkers. Like in the early days, I had to learn everything. Like I didn't know, I was not a girl who worked with her hands aside from painting my nails. Like that's the only thing I like did with my hands. Like other than that, like I never, I don't even think I'd like unscrewed something. And so I basically, had to learn very, very quickly how to like basically mend these vintage frames, refinish them, prepare them so that they're ready for sale. And so I had my dad and my brother, and they were consultants in the early days to help train me up. Them and YouTube, just like YouTubing things.
Right. I have learned so much over YouTube. I mean, wow. Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like I would just like be watching these videos of these like old men like in their old workshop, having their videos with like 5 views, but I'm like give them 10 more views because I would watch it over and over trying to like learn just the right skill.
Exactly, exactly. And it makes honestly, YouTube makes me feel like I can do anything. Anything. Just like
Doesn't
me and
it?
YouTube, and we can conquer the world.
It's wild.
It is. All right, so this will be my last question for you. And then if you want to add anything else after that, I would love, love, love to hear it. So, what do you see for the future, both for you with your writing books and with anything and everything else that you do? I mean, I know we've got Grave Flowers coming up, which I'm so excited for that one. Yeah, tell me what you see yourself in the next steps.
Well, I have basically my book future is planned, I believe, until 2028, and that I have a book a year coming out until then. So I will be writing a lot. I will be
yes, you will
working because like a lot of those are just like proposals and stuff like that. So I'll be drafting a lot of books and revising and copy editing. At my heart, I just want to be an author, and I want to be able to write and have like a long career and just basically be able to write for the rest of my life. Also, knowing that like the future is going to be shifting a little bit because, like I homeschool my daughter, and like my son is going to be, so he's going to be 5 in August. So he'll be joining. So just knowing that like, the workload will increase there, but that's a blessing to be able to homeschool them. But just knowing that, it's going to be increasing, and then just, trying to trust that everything will shift and fall into place together. But then, just ultimately hoping that I can write many, many books for a very, very long time.
Well, if anybody can do it, it's you. You are such an icon. And let me tell you, I don't know if I heard the number 2028. So you just made my day and my life for the rest of 2028. I cannot wait to see where anything is going. That was an amazing conversation, Autumn. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you, friends, for all being here. If you enjoyed this conversation, you're going to love our past conversations. We have one with Lori Nash, who's a young filmmaker. We have one with Allison Ramirez, who is a freelancer and an author. We have one with me, who is also a freelancer and an author. And we have one with our founder, Dominic, who is just awesome in every way. So if any of those sound interesting to you, come check them out. Thank you so much for being here today, and stay creative.